Alright, so I noticed that YouTube really doesn't like like uploading 5 parts of a video, in one day. So I'm gonna continue to try to avoid the longer videos for reacting to them. Uh, but I noticed that there aren't a lot of videos on Matt Powell's channel that are that are in a good time range for reactionary content. And so I have 2 videos here pulled up. I have 2 videos here where I'm gonna react to both of them in this video, because together they make up about 12 minutes. And one of them was the one that the other day I said I wasn't going to do. But it's only 7 minutes. So it's not going to be like 30 minutes of just brain melting idiocy. So I thought I'd just go with it. I'll have that one as the second half. Let's do this.
Origin of the universe is that God created the heaven and the earth. But
Alright, now you just need evidence for that.
a bad answer is the idea that everything evolved out of nothingness and somehow an infinite...
That's not, no. First of all, it's used a lot in these videos. The word evolution is used a lot for things that aren't evolution. And I want to get that out of the way right now. That evolution says nothing, like the theory of evolution says nothing about the start of the earth, the start of the universe, says nothing about anything in between those 2 times, and it says nothing about the start of life, and it says nothing in between the start of life and those 2 events. Absolutely nothing about that.
dense hot point exploded and created everything that we see. How long would it take for a rock this small to morph into a rock this large? You'd say that it would never happen, right?
Yeah, that would never happen unless material was added to it. I have a feeling he's gonna liken people to rocks, which is just stupid.
Right? And that's exactly my point. The Big Bang Theory states that all of the matter was condensed.
Okay, I was wrong. First off, I'd like to point out that the Big Bang Theory says absolutely nothing about there being nothing, there existing nothing. It's entirely possible that the matter, all of the matter that exists to this day, it's entirely possible that that existed in that infinitely small point that exploded, and that was the Big Bang.
Condensed into an infinitely dense hot point of energy, and this piece of dust somehow exploded and created large...
Okay, first off, that's a really weird word choice. It wasn't dust. That's not what it was. It was an infinitely small point of energy and possibly matter.
Larger pieces of rocks. And think of this, how can you take particles of dust and convert them to water? It's not possible.
Okay, so how that happens is first, at the beginning of the universe, you've got, I believe it was hydrogen and helium, or wait. It was hydrogen and then condensing to helium. I believe condensing to helium from hydrogen is really not that hard. It doesn't require much. Either that or helium existed from the beginning. I'm not sure which. Then, the only two requirements for a star are hydrogen and helium. So what happens is the star forms, and then you get nuclear fusion in the star's core, which creates the heavier elements. And hydrogen existed anyway, but oxygen is then created. And then hydrogen and oxygen bond together, creating water. Oh, whoops. Wrong thing.
Well, how could all the water in the universe have existed as energy, they say, in an
It didn't exist as water back then.
infinitely dense hot point? It's not possible. The Big Bang is objectively false. But yet, according to many atheists, the Big Bang is the...
It's not objectively false. We have objectively proved it, Kenham. Or not Kenham. Fucking Matt Powell. Confusing my idiotic creationists.
the most plausible explanation of origins, and that is just not true. It is a lie. The only thing that could have brought about life and this matter and energy that we see around us is the Lord God. The Bible...
Nope. Now you need to support that claim. You know what I bet you're not going to do is support that claim. I just heard him say Bible. Say it with me, folks. Scripture is not valid evidence.
Bible tells us that in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Now remember, evolutionists don't just think that life evolved. They believe that...
Don't use evolutionists for that. Don't do that, Kenham. That's not a good thing, Kenham, because what you're doing is you're generalizing. You're generalizing that. And I guarantee you that there is at least one person out there, or that person has existed, or that person will exist, that believes in evolution but does not believe in the Big Bang or how life started to exist or how the earth came into existence. You know, there are plenty of creationists, or maybe not creationists, but there are plenty of Christians who do believe that God created the earth and also believe in evolution.
Rocks evolved. Like I mentioned earlier, they think that tiny rocks...
Okay. You are not using the scientific term evolved correctly.
that were smaller than a period on a page morphed into rocks as big as planet Earth. And
Okay. Let's go through the processes here, Matt Powell. First, hydrogen and helium exist. Then, stars exist. Then, the heavier elements exist. Then, those heavier elements bond together to create the rocks. Those rocks come together to form many different layers, and they come together to form the Earth. Not that hard to understand.
a bunch of galaxies and oceans and all sorts of different elements, supposedly, according to them, came from a tiny piece of dust.
Who specifically are the them that you are referring to?
That is how bizarre that this theory is. That is how huge of a lie.
Well, maybe it's bizarre to you because you haven't taken the time to try to understand it.
Big Bang Theory is. It gets very loony as you look into the fundamentals of Darwinian evolution in
Poisoning the well.
respect to stellar evolution. Did we just appear here? No, obviously something with a high amount of intelligence had to create
Support it then.
you and I, and every piece of matter and energy that we see around us. It's the only explanation of origins that makes any sense. When you start looking at other alternatives, you enter into the science fiction world, and this is why atheism is based in magic. Because if I was to...
Oh my God. The amount of hypocrisy this man spews. Holy Mother of God.
to say that a rock just appeared in my yard from nothing, nobody would believe that. But yet we're supposed to think that the entire universe just popped into existence from nothing with no God? It is a belief.
Didn't pop into existence. There was an explosion, which we do not know the cause of, but there is a high chance that there was a cause. We just don't know what it is. That caused the matter to be strewn about the universe, which caused it to condense into bigger and bigger objects. It's not that hard to understand.
Belief in magic that atheists hold to. It is not scientific in any sense whatsoever.
Bullshit. Oh, whoops. Wait, is that this? Is that this? There we go. Bullshit. What this guy really likes to do is just poison the well and then be like, oh, look, guys, it's so ridiculous. You know what's not ridiculous? What I believe in. Like, dude, this is not in, like, a respectful way to have an argument. And it's also just not a truthful way to have an argument. It's honestly just completely sleazy.
The idea that dust morphed into water is quite laughable.
We're not saying dust morphed into water, you dumb shit. We're saying that hydrogen and oxygen, two materials, oxygen mostly exists in a gaseous state. I'm not sure what hydrogen takes the form of in its pure form, but they bond together via a hydrogen bond. That sound familiar? Because it's got hydrogen in it, motherfucker. They bond together. I'm pretty sure neither of those elements take the form of dust. Does hydrogen... Does pure hydrogen take the form of dust? I'll be damned. It is dust. But that doesn't change the fact that the reason why things like water and what other things like rocks, water, rocks, what's another example? Let's go water, granite, I don't know, fucking basalt, I guess. The reason why they exist in the forms that they do is because of the amount of bonding that they have. The strength of the bond determines the temperature at which they are in the states that they are. Notice everything on Earth, everything that has, how do I explain it? just everything that has a chemical composition is going to have a solid, liquid, and gaseous state, depending on the temperature. Water has a solid, liquid, and gaseous state. Ice, water, and water vapor. That's how that works. So this, what I see here is H2. That's two hydrogen bonded together. And that specifically takes the form of a solid because of specifically where it's found in, looks like, interstellar space. The temperature there allows it to take the form of a solid, depending on, the fucking, the strength of the bonds.
Even if we pretend that the Big Bang actually...
If you want that article, it's not really that helpful, but here it is. I just read this bit. Pause if you want to read it.
actually happened, which it didn't, but if we enter into fantasy land, let's consider it. Okay, you have
More poisoning the well.
rain that's occurring on Earth.
Maybe I should do like a logic fallacy bingo. Would that be fun? I feel like that would be really fun. I'd have to learn more logical fallacies though.
On this molten piece of rock for millions of years, which supposedly sparked the first single-celled organisms. Well,
Oh, sorry, what was that?
however, the idea that dust morphed into water is quite laughable.
The dust, and I noticed this just now, the dust bonds with another element. And it's in a completely different temperature here on Earth.
And even if we pretend that the Big Bang actually happened, which it didn't, but if we enter into fantasy land, let's consider it. Okay, you have rain that's occurring on Earth, on this molten piece of rock, for millions of years, which supposedly sparked the first...
I'm not sure if this is just my monitor or if his video is laggy. Or if it's YouTube. Sounds like my computer's having a hard time. I'm not sure why.
Single-celled organisms. Well, what are those organisms going to eat? There's no other biology.
Okay, that is... I find myself saying this a lot. That is a complete and utter misunderstanding of the basic processes of why we eat. The reason why we eat is to ingest chemical energy, basically. It's to ingest things that have chemical energy in them. And that is often in the form of sugars. And, that's great and all, but you have to understand why we do that. And the reason why we do that is because we need that energy. Single-celled organisms have a wider... Okay, there's a wide array of things that you can get energy from. And because single-celled organisms don't really need much energy to stay, I guess, living, they can get their energy from a wider array of things. And these, the single-celled organisms can often get them from many different sources, often unliving sources. Hell, there are even, I believe, some fish at the very bottom of the ocean living off of the stuff coming out of volcanic vents. That's not living. Fucking plants get their energy from the sun and water. Like, the sun, water, oxygen, and, carbon dioxide. They get their energy from that. None of those sources are living. And then we consume the plants for the chemical energy that they make out of those sources. It's all about energy. Most of the time, you need specific structures to convert different kinds of energy. And many of these single-celled organisms have structures that allow them to consume different non-living sources. Hell, there are even the reason why things decompose are because of little microbes that eat the that they eat the things that are they cause them to decompose. That's how that works.
Technology around, right? So what are they going to eat? Hard rock? How are these organisms going to survive? And even if you had a single-celled organism come to life in soup, it's just going to produce worse copies of itself. Remember.
Okay, once again, that is a complete misunderstanding of how mutations work. He's going on about how mutations are bad and how the longer things mutate, the worse it gets, and that's just a complete misunderstanding of how evolution and mutations work. That's not how that works. Now, the reason why we have diversity today, genetic diversity, is because, and I'm going to use the first single-celled organisms as an example. They were single-celled organisms that had pretty much just RNA in a cell membrane. That's all they had, pretty much. And what they would do is they would copy that RNA and split. That's all they did. Now, sometimes they would make a mistake in copying that RNA. And that mistake may not have been too bad. It may have been catastrophic. If it were catastrophic, the thing would die out. If it wasn't catastrophic, it could have either done nothing or it could have done something beneficial. If it did something beneficial, that could ultimately lead to that second one doing a different thing for its energy. Like consuming something different for its energy. Now, over time, these things grow increasingly different. And now you've got one cell that needs to break down other cells for their energy, and it's like, I'm going to get better at that, because if I increase my efficiency at this, I can live longer. Now, I've said this before, this is just a silly little analogy. Groups evolve, populations evolve, individuals do not evolve. But my point is, this little strand on, this little branch on the evolutionary tree starts going down the more efficient route. It's more efficiently breaking down and more effectively using its energy. Now it's getting a little bit worse. Now this particular species is getting a little bit worse at finding the prey and eating it. Now, another cell comes along and it is really good at finding and eating the prey, but it's not so good at actually using that energy effectively. So they come together. They start hunting as a group, and the one that processes the energy more effectively is sharing its energy with the first one, or with the second one that's really good at hunting, and the one that's really good at hunting is sharing its spoils with the first one. So now you've got a multicellular organism. That's how that works.
We're copies of our parents, and our
In fact, it's on a bigger scale than that, but we are in the process of that symbiosis with another species, and over time we may fuse with that species. There are little mites in your pores that eat the excretions, and they use it to live. And now it's to the point where mothers pass on the children of their pore mites down to their children. And it's really fucking cool. It's really fascinating. It's a little gross, I'll give you that, but it's fascinating. Oh, excuse me. It's fascinating. And that is the wonders of science. It's amazing.
parents are copies of their parents. We are all copies of copies. We are breaking down genetically.
Okay, that's a misunderstanding. We are not copies. We are the sum of one half of our father and one half of our mother. We are not a copy of either. That would happen if we reproduced asexually. But we do not. We produce sexually. Meaning that one half from male, one half from female, smush them together, and you get the child. That's how that works.
We are not evolving. We are actually devolving. And that's what science has shown us. Just look at how many more diseases we have now
Bullshit.
than the human population had back in the 1800s even. There were...
Okay. This is a complete misunderstanding. It's like when these assholes go, oh, well, we see more autism now than we did. No. More cases of autism does not mean, and more cases of illness does not mean that there is more illness and that there is more autism. It means that we're getting better at detecting those things. It means we're not going, oh yeah, oh, you little Timmy over there, oh, he's just fucked. It's fine. It's because we're being more conscious about how we actually see the world.
way less diseases than there are now. And what that tells us is that the human genome is deteriorating. That means that
Bullshit.
we were created with a very good set of genetics at the beginning,
Show evidence.
and we have degraded since. We did not evolve from a common ancestor millions of years ago. I mean, come on. They're saying now that we descended from a jellyfish, that all mankind...
Not what we say. Say we share a common ancestor with jellyfish. And we may have a common ancestor with other organisms that looks and acts like a jellyfish.
can trace back to a jellyfish. That's ridiculous. It's much more plausible to suggest that God created us out of the dust of the ground and He breathed into our nostrils the breath of life.
Oh, so magic? Checkmate. Matt Powell, checkmate. And if you say miracles, it's literally the same fucking thing. Because if you notice, these assholes, what they do is they go, oh, something amazing happened for me. It's a miracle. Oh, something good happened for you? That's Satan. Reject it. Like, dude, can you not be more of an asshole?
Life, and that man became a living soul when God brought us into existence. Not when some fish fell in love with another fish. and somehow over generations produced you and me.
I'm not sure if they had the chemicals running through their body necessary for love, actually. Would be something interesting to research.
That's a fairy tale. That's not reality. That's not science. It's a false religion that atheists
Bullshit. Bullshit.
believe in. And so that's why I made this video, because I don't want anybody to be tricked anymore.
So, I've said this before, that their goal is to drag us down to their level. But in reality, their goal is to drag us down to their level and then ride a high horse to be better. That's what their goal is. That's what Matt Powell's goal is. That's what Ken Ham's goal is. That's what most of these assholes' goal is. See how I'm specifying who I'm talking about when I say they? Ken Ham, Answers in Genesis, Matt Powell. That's who I'm talking. Ah, fuck. That's who I'm talking about.
Or by falsehoods.
Honestly, it took me so long because I went through so many. I'm not gonna talk about this one. I'm not gonna do it unless I'm desperate. But I think I'm gonna just do this as a video, honestly. Because that went on so long, because I explained so many things. So yeah, I'm gonna stop this video, I'm gonna go upload it, and then I'm gonna go do the other one.